Welcome to Brave Inflexions. My name is Claudel Finnick. In this video, I want to talk about a topic that is really important, and I think it's becoming increasingly more important as we see an increase in corporate scandals, ethical failures, and so forth across all organizations, sectors, industries. And I don't think there's any country that is immune to it. We see reports coming from all parts of the world around significant ethical failures. So you may find yourself in the position where you're the one who needs to be the whistleblower, and it becomes even more important when you are in a leadership position in terms of how you deal with it. So firstly, let me say, what is fundamentally important for you to be very crystal clear on is that you must do the right things for the right reasons. So blowing the whistle is important in making sure that we don't find ourselves in a position where the organization has a culture of silence, or that the organization eventually goes under or has an adverse effect on society, the broader society, because of unethical behavior in the organization. Right? So it is a huge responsibility, but it is also an inflection point. And it's an inflection point that can either make you or break you. So there are certain things that I think that are really important for you to take into consideration as you embark on this very important journey as a whistleblower. So let me start off by saying that one of the things that I think that we're not very good at in training professionals is to make sure that people understand that when you're going to blow the whistle, you're going to step on toes, and some of those toes may be really big, ugly, evil toes that may come back for you, that will want to make sure that they silence you, or may retaliate, right? So it's important that when you embark on the journey as a whistleblower, that you go in with your eyes wide open and understand that you may experience real difficulties, that there is a risk in blowing the whistle. You may find yourself demoted. You may find yourself blocked from being promoted. You may find yourself victimized, threatened, intimidated, ostracized within the organization, right? So I don't want for you to be naive, thinking that doing the right thing, you will always be safe because you're doing the right thing. The reality is that often it is the opposite. So making sure that you're safe, there are a number of things that I think that you need to take into consideration. I'll touch on a few in this video. I can't touch on every single one of them, but I'm going to touch on the ones that I think are important. So firstly, do your homework. Right? So look at things like, what does this legislation in your country say? You know, what protection, what legal protection do you have? You may have to consult with with a lawyer to get a sense of what legal protection you may have, but do your research, do your homework around that. So for example, in South Africa, there is the Protectors Disclosures Act, the PDA, that gives certain level of protection to whistleblowers. So be aware of that. Make sure that you understand the company processes. You may have an ethics hotline. What structures does the organization have in place? What policies does the organization have in place? So what is the process that you need to follow? Is an internal audit unit? Is there a forensics unit? So where you can, how do you need to blow the whistle within your organization? Important to understand who's who in the zoo. You know, at the heart of whistleblowing is trust. And it's sometimes very, very difficult to establish who you can trust and whether you are reporting to somebody you actually can trust. And trust for me is not just about whether you trust that the person is not one of the culprits, that the person won't use the information against you. But trust also is about whether you can trust that this person knows what they're doing, in terms of taking the matter forward. So in a lot of cases, and you would find that the organization has not done enough to train the management team to deal so that they know how to appropriately deal with it when somebody comes and blows the whistle in their office, and they may inadvertently expose you. So be aware of who is who in the zoo, who can be trusted from all different aspects. Also, make sure that the information that you have is correct. Now, if you blow the whistle with incorrect information, you may damage somebody's reputation, and it may be irreparable. So you don't want to be responsible for that. You don't want to be responsible for somebody's career crashing just because you did not have the correct information and you didn't make sure that you do your homework around that. Make sure the information is complete, as complete as can be, right? So whoever needs to take action, who would be responsible for holding the culprit or the culprits accountable, needs to have complete information. They can't have bits and pieces, and they can't just go on hearsay, right? So make sure that the information that you've got is correct and that the information is complete. And then also make sure, depending on how high the stakes are, and how toxic the organization culture is, and in particular when you're in an environment where it's very difficult to determine who you can trust, make sure the information is safe, right? Keep duplicates if you need to, but make sure that it's in a safe place. If possible, by the time you blow the whistle, make sure that you're not the only person who has the information, who knows about the information, because it singles you out and it makes you a bigger target, right? So if the culprits know that there isn't just one individual in the organization who sits with the information, it makes it a lot more difficult for them to come after one individual. I would also advise that you speak to an expert, somebody who understands the processes when it comes to blowing the whistle. You may need to speak to somebody outside of the organization. Be careful about what information you give that individual. You may find yourself breaking the law if you take information outside of the organization. But an expert who can help you through the process, who can walk with you through the process, who can also help you to stay courageous, because one of the key legs of a successful whistleblowing process is courage, and it's ethical courage. And sometimes, especially when you're being intimidated, it becomes very difficult to remain courageous. But if you've got an expert at your side who walks with you through the process, it does make it makes it a lot easier. Also very important advice that I always give is, when you go through a process like that, up your nutrient intake. Be very, very aware of the fact that you are going through a very stressful period. And then when we go through stressful periods in our lives, our cortisol levels go up, and that can wreak havoc on our bodies. But essentially, there's a lot of pressure on your body, so you need to make sure that you counteract that. Keep on exercising, making sure that you eat nutrient-dense food, but you up your nutrient intake. You may even want to think about taking supplements during that period, just to make sure that you counteract what stress may be doing to your body in the process. Very importantly, as well, make sure that you clean on your side, that they don't have anything that they can use against you. We find lots of situations where whistleblowers find themselves in disciplinary procedures with allegations against them as the culprits are trying to cover their tracks or to silence the whistleblower. You may very well find yourself in a position like that. But when you find yourself in a position where suddenly the allegations made against you, that those allegations are not true, because then it will destroy you. Right? If the allegations are not true, over time the truth will be revealed, and you may need to be prepared for a process of really fighting for your life and your reputation in the process. But make sure that you clean on your side, so that they can't take you out from that perspective. So make sure that you've got the safeguards in place to mitigate against the risk, so that when you blow the whistle, you're blowing it as safely as you possibly can, and then there won't be comebacks that would really harm you in the long run. I know it is easier said than done, but do your homework, speak to an expert, think about all the different angles, cover your bases. Now you may very well say to me, Claudel, if you say, I've got to do all of this, these are all the things that may happen to me, why should I do the right thing? Well, it is about understanding that you have a responsibility to the collective. If each one of us make the decision not to do the right thing, think about the world that we will end up living in. Evil prevails when good people remain silent. And that is a high price at the end of the day, you know. So what is the lesser of two evils? You're going through this difficult period where you've blown the whistle, or everything failing around us. Right? So you may keep quiet in your organization because you're too scared of the process. But then the organization fails in the long run. Because where there's unethical behavior, inevitably the organization will be affected. Right? So even if you look at it from the perspective of self-preservation, you don't have a choice. You may just need to think very clearly about how you're going to do it, how long the process will take, and sometimes you need to blow the whistle 6 months from now and not immediately. Right? And that is okay. But do the right things for the right reasons, especially when you're in the leadership position, because you need to set the example. Well, I hope that helps you to think a little bit, and it helps you through that inflection point. And I thank you for listening.